In this video, we're going to look at the further statistics paper from the 2023 exam. Let's go to question 1. The question gives us the discrete random variable x and the probability distribution of that random variable, asking us to find the expectation of x and then the values a and b, and then asking us to find out the probability of x1 plus x2 greater than 3, where x1 and x2 have the same distribution as x. So it's quite a standard question. Let's take a look at this together. Expectation of x is quite simple, and it's something that all of us should be very familiar with. This formula is in our formula book. Let's write that out from our table. So we have minus 2 multiplied by 0.25 plus minus 1 multiplied by a plus 0 multiplied by b plus 1 multiplied by a plus 3 multiplied by 0.30. Initially, I was a bit skeptical in terms of the question asking us to find the expectation of x. So I didn't know whether I had to express that in terms of a and b because these are unknowns. But actually looking at this expansion, a and b actually won't appear in the expectation of x. So the expectation of x is simply minus 0.5, the minus 1a and the 1a cancel with each other. 0 times b is simply 0. Therefore, I have plus 0.9. Therefore, expectation of x is simply 0.4. So that's our part A. For part B, we've been told that the variance of x equals 3.9. So variance of x, again, you should already remember this formula for the variance of x. We know the expectation of x, that's from the previous part, so that's 0.4, but we need to work out the expectation of x squared. So let's write that down in that question. What's x squared? So x squared, let's write that down here. X squared is 41019. Let's write down the expectation of x squared then. The expectation of x squared is 4 times 0.25 plus 1 times a plus 0 times b plus 1 times a plus 9 times. You'll notice that I've written out terms where I know will sum up to 0, just so I'm being complete here in our answer. So the answer is 1 plus 2a plus 2.7, so that's 3.7 plus 2a. So that's the expectation of x squared. Now putting this back into this equation, so let's see what we get. Expectation of x squared, so 3.7 plus 2a minus 0.4, remember the square there, equals 3.9. So I get 2a equals 3.9 minus 3.7 plus 0.16. What do I get? So 0.36. 0.36, so a equals 0.18. That's our answer. So how do we get the value of b? We know that all the probabilities need to sum up to 1. So all of these. So we know that probability, sum of all probabilities need to equal to 1. Therefore, we know that 0.25 plus a plus b plus a plus 0.30 equals 1. And we know that a equals 0.18, which means b equals 1 minus 0.25 minus 2 lots of 0.18 minus 0.3. So b equals 0.09. That's our answer for B. Let's now look at part C. Part C is telling us the independent random variables x1 and x2 have the same distribution as x, and it's asking us to find the probability where x1 plus x2 is greater than 3. Normally, it's not so easy to work out the probability of the sum of two independent variables being greater than a certain number. But looking at the distribution of x is actually not that tricky. So looking at the distribution of x, where I'm highlighting here, that's the distribution of x. So x can take on values -2, -1, 0, 1, and 3. In order for the sum of x1 and x2 to be greater than 3, we'll need x1 to be 1, x2 to be 3, or vice versa, or both of them to be 3. So that's actually not as hard as it sounds. So probability of x1 plus x2 greater than 3 equals the probability of x1 equals 1 and x2 equals 3 plus the probability of the other way around plus x1 equals 3 and x2 equals 1 plus both x1 and x2 being 3 equals 3. And because x1, x2 independent, that equals probability of x1 equals 1 times the probability of x2 equals 3 plus probability of x1 equals 3 times the probability of x2 equals 1. I'm just writing that all out so that is clear. You might not have to in the exam, but if you have time, it's always best to write down all your steps. Now that's easy. So we know that probability of x1 equals 1 is a, and a is 0.18 times 0.3 plus 0.30 times 0.18 plus 0.30 all squared. That equals 0.19a. So that's our answer to part C. A straightforward warm-up question. Hope you follow this.